table doesn't use as much whatever it needs to use to
Yeah.
yeah. So all right, so we'll just have a we'll just have an audio
A podcast, as it were.
podcast. Exactly. So Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu.
Shall we start with
And,
Nambutsu? Actually, should we? And
happy Eve.
happy New Year's Eve indeed. Shall we start with some Nambutsu?
Sure, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll say Gasho.
Yeah.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Nama.
Nama.
Namad. Nama.
And well, we're on the topic of Christmas Eve in Japan.
New Year's Eve.
Or sorry, not Christmas. I'm a little New Year's Eve. It is one of the observances in our denomination called Joyae, and then New Year's Day, which is tomorrow, will be Gantan-e. And typically in Japan on Joyae, all the temples will ring the large bell, and it's typically rung. So I have done this multiple times as I've lived in Japan. People will line up and everyone gets a turn at ringing the bell. I've done it at a Jodo Shinshu Temple, Jokyoji in Nara, and I've also done it at a Shinshu Temple in Kyushu, where I was doing a homestay, and that was a very enjoyable New Year. And it's rung at midnight, and usually it's rung 108 times, but
cool.
That's for one of each of the bonno, right? The placios that human beings have.
Yep. Wake up. It's ringing, waking, trying to wake us up to our kleshas, our ignorance,
But in Jodo Shinshu temples, we don't stop ringing after 108. Because
that makes sense.
No is without number, as it were.
Exactly, and doesn't cease until the very to the very end of life.
Yes. So yes, happy New Year's Eve. Of course, tomorrow will also be New Year. Hopefully, you are enjoying. I assume you're enjoying with your.
We have. Family. It's been super busy, but as always. But really enjoyable time with family and with friends. So very good. Yeah. So I took a week off before. So the week between Christmas and New Year's, the university is closed down where I work.
Oh. Okay.
So I took and this I haven't done in years. I took the week off before Christmas as well. So I had the full 2 weeks, but out of that full 2 weeks, I had maybe 2 like chill days, like just you know what I mean, where I could just relax and just do whatever, that wasn't, either preparations for, the festivities or, gardening, catch up, for shutting everything down for winter, or do you know what I mean? Or something else going on. It was crazy, but it was a nice time though. Really nice. Nice time.
Yes, I saw from your pictures you shared, it looked like a very wonderful, festive time. Well, for me, the holiday really, it's in Japan, it's the New Year holiday.
Yeah.
And it began maybe on Friday. So I have had a couple of days of peer relaxation, but after the New Year, I really do have to get started on sorting out my apartment and getting ready for the move, because it is quite a international move is a little daunting.
It is. As I'm aware as well. But while we're on this subject, we might as well talk about this. Just given recent social media occurrences, shall we say, the whole holiday
Yeah.
thing, the festive time. Do you want to come back on video
Yeah.
now? Because it seems like it's stabilized a bit better now.
Okay. Let's give it a
Give it a
try and
shot. Yeah. So yeah,
I'm back.
I just want to say with with the festive season,
Hmm.
it's mostly a cultural um sort of experience or observance for me. It's not as far as the doing things actually on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, all of that. That's just it's just a cultural observance for me. Do you know what I mean? And everyone knows I'm a Buddhist, and everyone, it's not like I'm, you know, um, and I do have, family members that, to one degree or another, do celebrate Christmas as a religious kind of holiday, but they don't, even, um, but it's a mixture, the way that it's a mixture of that. But for me, it's a cultural holiday, and I don't see any problem with kind of approaching it that way and participating in things, you know what I mean, that are Christmas,
Oh,
because I'm a Buddhist. I'm not observing it as a Christian. I'm not observing it as a Christian holiday. I'm just observing it as the festive winter festival that has been probably been celebrated long before any of those religions existed. You know, any of the you know you know
yeah.
winter festivals have been going on long before the specifics of these different religions that people you know uh
Right.
have then kind of uh, and it's known. I mean, the time of the Christian holidays have been specifically put on, do you know what I mean, on the pagan festival. So it's like to me it's just, I mean, it's just a cultural observance. And I think it was probably long before it was a religious observance this time of the year. It was probably a cultural observance by many peoples. Do you know what I mean? Um,
Well, certainly the winter
the
solstice.
winter, that's what I mean. The winter solstice, that's what I mean. Yeah. So, you know, uh, but anyway, to me, I don't have any problem doing that as a Buddhist, compartmentalizing the festive time as a cultural, you know, social thing to participate in and separating it from the religious. Equally, though, there's a lot of Buddhist holidays, isn't there, during this time? In Jodo Shinshu, there's one in sort of mid-November starting, isn't there, a Jodo Shinshu? I thought there was a Jodo Shinshu holiday
Yeah.
starting then, and then
Um,
there's Bodhi Day. There's the secular or universal observance of Bodhi Day on the 8th of December, and then there's other Buddhist holidays, and then there's the traditional observance of Bodhi Day and the New Year's, you know, the lunar, the Chinese New Year as it's called. But so I just kind of, for me, I just kind of call it the Bodhi
well,
season because of that,
right.
just from a
Chinese
Buddhist
New Year,
standpoint. Um, but
Chinese New Year has nothing to do with
it's
Buddhism
not.
per se, but
No, it doesn't.
it's
Yeah,
later. I think it's in February,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not a
Uh,
Buddhist strictly. Yeah, it's not a Buddhist holiday. But it's celebrated by a lot of Buddhist cultures, I guess.
yes, certainly. Well, I mean, for sure. There's also though the Southeast Asian New Year, which I think is in
Yeah,
April, maybe, uh, which is celebrated by
yeah,
probably more Buddhists.
yeah.
Um, but and then of course Japan uses the Gregorian calendar, I
Mm.
suppose this is called. But yeah, the season, as you call it, the Bodhi season, which I love. There's and then there's the big holiday in Jodo Shinshu is really Ho-Onko, which um at Honganji at the head temple is actually in January. Um, but the season actually starts in like November,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
because each temple kind of they like do it, they celebrate it on a rolling basis so that people from, if you want to attend Honko at your local temple, let's say, like I did in December a few weeks ago, um, you can also attend Honko at the head temple. So there's no overlap. It doesn't conflict, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of,
Yeah.
a lot of people will attend like multiple Honkos at different temples,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
it's an ongoing, but that's really the major, I would say, celebration event in Jodo Shinshu. And then, of course, many Shin Buddhist people are also, uh, in a West living in America, for example. So they celebrate, Christmas and,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I love Christmas. I mean, I love the whole spirit of it. I love the season. I love the spirit of uh, uh, forgiveness,
Charity and yeah.
charity, and all the positive qualities that Christmas brings. Um, and so I celebrate it as a sort of, I think kind of a spiritual holiday, um, it, as not merely a cultural thing, um, but everybody looks at it in a different way. A lot of Christians actually don't celebrate Christmas because they think it's, a, a pagan
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's getting choppy
holiday.
again. Let me.
We just live in a world of diversity, and you never find it within anyone, but it does. Sometimes it can be a little difficult.
Yeah.
But there's also nothing wrong with. The only thing I wanted to make clear was there's nothing wrong with wishing, your friends Merry Christmas. You're not promoting anything. You're not, you can say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no issue. Um, so that was the only.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's not. It's. I just personally, I just like I don't celebrate it. You know. Um. Religiously, but I don't see. Yeah. Sorry, it got choppy again. That's why I went off camera. But I personally don't have any issue with like uh, just participating in things. Like I said, I do it more as a cultural thing. If it's not
Oh, for
specifically
sure.
a Buddhist holiday, then I'll be participating. It just is, a cultural kind of thing. And yeah, so I
Yeah,
just
well, in
yeah.
California, I mean, we have a very diverse state, but we have Diwali, we have Christmas, we have Hanukkah, we have Bodhi Day,
Mm,
so we're always wishing each other happy Diwali, happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. I mean,
yeah,
there's really no issues unless someone wants to turn it into an issue.
yeah,
I think one of the problems with the happy holidays, people sort of wanted to try to be, neutral and inclusive, but then you end up with this sort of, wouldn't it be better, for example, to find out what holidays people actually celebrate and
yeah,
then acknowledge that, for
yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah.
if your Christian friends or family celebrate Christmas, then wish them a Merry Christmas. If your Indian workmates celebrate Diwali, then
Well,
say
yeah,
Happy. That's a more kind of active inclusionary practice, in my opinion. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with saying Happy Holidays, but
yeah. No, I definitely
and
see.
I enjoy the religious or spiritual aspect of Christmas too. I mean, I love the nativities and the artwork. I love, the atmosphere of churches, and I love
It's
all
very
that stuff.
nostalgic.
And
It's a very
there's no requirement that you don't, as a Buddhist, there's no issues.
yeah, exactly.
So
It's
all that said,
yeah. I the Yeah, did you want to try to have a discussion today, or with all the, should we just kind of have a, you know what I mean? Maybe not even try to do what we had planned on
Oh, we
discussing with
can,
all the
you know,
technical issues. Maybe I think I know what it is because my wife is usually not awake at this time while I'm doing this
okay,
meeting. And so, but I
yeah.
think she's actually watching something
Oh, some
on her
streaming.
iPad. And so, yeah, streaming. And so I think that is causing the issues. Or if we do it later in the day, she's out by then. Do you know what I mean? Speaking of, yeah,
Well,
going to church, going to the cathedral and such, actually. And while we're and so that's why it's usually not choppy when we're because she's not on the she's not doing anything. Um,
yeah.
but I think that's the issue now. And I don't know how much of this is how clear any of this is going to be anyway with you know with the
It will be as clear as we are hearing it now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
is my understanding of how
yeah,
this works.
yeah.
But certainly we could address.
Well,
I mean,
which did you want to have the discussion about the I think it would we really need to have a time where we have a lot of time to do the proofs, the quote unquote proofs, the Shinron proofs aspect
right, right.
of that, of the from that first chapter of
Hmm.
the Kyogyo Shinsho. Like the first paragraph in the last the first two sections and the last two sections. I'm like, yeah, right on board. Yep, there, yeah, I'm with that. But then I'm like, how is these auspicious signs? Do you see what I mean? I just couldn't. I've never got that. Why this what how that specifically ties into then this is obviously the reason that Shinran or that Shakyamuni appear,
Right.
that Amida came as a Shakyamuni to be. Do you see what I mean? Like there's suspicious signs in many of the sutras. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? So like, how is this one like? Okay, this means that this is the one he like. I get for what he delivered, yeah. Do you see what I mean? But
Mhm.
why those suspicious? That's what I don't get. I don't get that at all. Do you see what I mean?
And I
That
think
part.
just here for the audience, by auspicious signs, you're
Yeah.
referring specifically to the light of Shakyamuni's.
Yes. And all that. So that, but yeah, exactly. So I think maybe we how prepared would you be to discuss the vegetarian question that I had?
That's an easy one. I don't think that will take more than 30 seconds.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I might have. Okay. Well, let's talk about that first then, because we're not because a lot of the time has been taken up with uh
Right.
our technical difficulties, and then we having the chat about the holidays. So we're so yeah, can we talk about that? Because I do have some questions about that probably as it whatever as it unfolds. So yeah, so my question basically around this has kind of always been, you know, the vegetarian question with Buddhism. I think it's a kind of a universal one. There's a lot of talk about that. I've seen in just in Buddhism in general about whether it's a requirement or not. And it does seem very clear, sort of in the just from the general, uh, I suppose you could say provisional teaching standpoint of the Maha Parinirvana Sutra, where I think there is somewhere where that Buddha said the followers are the I can't remember how it's put, but basically that um, followers of the teaching should be refraining from meat eating, and that sort of thing. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, it does make sense, from the standpoint of the principles of Buddhism and the cosmology of Buddhism and the precepts, and do you know what I mean? and on and on. It's all that would all be in line with, minimizing harm, and not
Well,
killing
it does
type of
depend
thing.
on what precepts you're talking about. I mean, the Vinaya doesn't say anything about eating meat except to forbid specific examples of meat eating.
Mm,
The the Mahayana sutras and the Brahma Jala Sutra, of course, the precepts for bodhisattvas do
hmm
enjoin abstinence from meat entirely. But throughout the history of Buddhist thought, there's been quite a diversity of viewpoints
hmm
on issue. Now
hmm
as Mahayana Buddhists, of course, um, we do accept the Mahayana sutras as
hmm
the uh, Buddha Vakana,
hmm
but at the same time, we have to also acknowledge the likely historical reality that the historical um, mendicant Gautama Buddha, the historical Buddha, did not forbid monks from eating meat, and may well have the implication, of course, is that although, this is quite a point of debate between
hmm hmm
Mahayana and Hinayana, but
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
the Buddha himself most likely did, in fact, eat meat at
Mm,
some point, you know. Um, but that's just the historical development of
mm.
things. The question is what I think the question you're asking is, what do we make of, say, the Mahayana restriction on eating
Yes.
meat? Should we all be vegetarians, for example, or
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, like that's my question in Jodo Shinshu, since obviously there's a lot of yeah. What is the sort of definitive Jodo Shinshu teaching about it? is kind of what my or understanding of it
right?
or interpretation or of
Well,
yeah.
unfortunately, there's probably no more definitive, um, you know, definition, I would say. Um, I'm just going to give you the facts, as it
Okay.
were, which is this is actually from the Buddhist Churches of America website, but it's a good, it pretty much just lays out what
Should we
the
share? Do you want to share what you're looking at, or do you have?
I
Let me.
could,
Yeah.
yes,
Let me.
let me
I'll get it ready
see.
so you can share. Yeah.
It's there's not
'Cause
much to
I've
share, but
Yeah, I tried to look up some things on the internet. It was difficult
yeah.
to find, you know.
Oh, okay. I have a lot of source
Good.
resources, so I could share some of them with you. Um,
Perfect. There we go.
so
Good.
question, are there any dietary or behavioral restrictions or rules in Shin Buddhism?
Perfect.
There are no dietary or behavioral restrictions or rules in Shin Buddhism. A person can eat meat or fish or choose to be a vegetarian. A person can choose to drink wine or liquor or not. So the important thing to note here is it's a personal choice.
hmm Okay.
Um, and that is
So that's
all it is.
yeah. So
It's
that's
not.
a. But what's that based on in sort of Shinron's writings or Renyo's writings, or do you see what I mean? What how has it come to that? That's what I want to. That's what I need to kind of understand is how it came to that. You know.
Yeah. Um, well, there is a rather lengthy passage in Kakunyo Shonin's Kudinsho. Um, or now that I think of it, it might have been the Gai Jasho, but it's one of the rare instances where uh, meat eating is sort of addressed in the literature, so to speak.
Okay. And that was and whose writings was that again? Sorry, it was.
And that would be Kakunyo Shonin. He was the I believe the second Monshu, basically, of the Honganji. He was um, Shinron's nephew, I believe. Um, and that does address eating meat, of course. But as a broader, I think, from maybe a broader perspective, you do have to remember that the majority of Buddhists historically have not been vegetarian. And probably the most vegetarians are not Buddhist. um, of
Yeah.
course, there are vegetarian
Yes.
Buddhists.
Yes. And there seems to be. It's really interesting. Um, I want to be very careful how I word this because I don't want to. The people who make a big deal about being vegetarian or vegan, there's
Mhm.
there seems to be a lack of other accompanying principles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To their lives, when it comes to kind of, I don't know, things that in Buddhism we would address, like the ego and, do you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
ignorance
Yeah. Yeah.
and our
Yeah.
arrogance and our, you know,
Right.
there seems to be a complete lack of that, in fact, um, especially the more outspoken uh, vegans or vegetarians stomping around being self-righteous, both
Yes.
in
Yes.
within Buddhism and without, actually.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and that's one of that's a huge, thing I think in Jodo Shinshu that I love about Jodo Shinshu is you go through a process of kind of some ego deflation, because it's kind of part of the natural
Yes.
process, I think,
Yeah.
of the Amida's kind of working, because the light is shown on your bono, on your ignorance, your own, do you know what I mean? And the depth of that.
Self-centeredness, self-centered. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
And so you're wrestling with that, you're seeing that, you're denying it, you're you're not seeing it, then you're seeing it, and you're like, okay, and so that kind of, there's a kind of ego deflation, I think, that happens with that, so that, and you realize the first thing, I have this, I need to sort myself out, not myself, well, not myself, but you know what I mean, Amita
Right.
needs to sort me out so I can go to Pure Land, and then I can be helpful to people, do you know what I mean? So
And
if I
it's
have and if
interesting,
I have that attitude first, so if I come to that point first, then I'm not with social ills or political things or whatever, stomping around self-righteously, arrogantly, demanding, you know,
Mm,
this is the way it should be, and this is what, we should be doing compassionately to help people. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, I'm not. It's a different attitude once you come at it from the. Do you see what I mean? Seeing you're a bamboo first.
yes.
So anyway, so that's something I really I love about kind of Jodo Shinto and Buddhism. Well, it's really Buddhism. That's really Buddhism, really. I think you have to. I think any school of Buddhism, and Jodo Shinto are part of that. There's that deflation first. If you truly are looking at, if you're really trying to embrace the teachings, do you see what I
Yeah.
mean? There's that ego deflation before, and then, okay, now I can, if I'm going to do the whole, engaged Buddhism thing, it's a different attitude that I do it with.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
Um,
and it's a deeper awareness of oneself as, you know, uh, a person who's, you know, like we talked about a lot, the awareness of oneself as an evil person.
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
spirit in the religious sense, in the Tawny
Exactly.
shows
Yep.
of that meaning,
Yep.
is that, like Conan said, all of the actions of our body, speech, and minds uh, just lead us further into birth and death.
Mm.
I actually just shared something from Nagarjuna's Juju Bibasharan, the commentary on the discourse on the stages of the Bodhisattva. And,
Yeah.
he makes this great point, it's called the path of Bombu, the path of foolish beings, or probably we should just translate it as the path of ordinary worldlings. Only leads to samsara, to birth
Yep.
and death. That's why it's
Exactly.
called. And then the super mundane path is that which leads to
Exactly.
nirvana.
Yeah.
But becoming
Definitely.
aware of oneself as, you know, and I agree with you. I do believe there are definitely people who choose to be vegetarian. It's a personal choice, and they may
Hmm.
do it for many reasons. I think compassion is a good and valid reason. I think people do it because they're concerned
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Sure.
animal cruelty and
Yep.
so on and so forth. And that, like, again, as I just read, that's that person's choice that they have
Hmm.
made, with
Hmm.
their conscience and so forth, and it's their decision, and that's perfectly fine. But I do become concerned if people start telling other people, well, you need to not eat meat, like I don't eat meat.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's the way it ought to be, because
Yeah.
now we have the ego making its grand appearance, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
you, you
Exactly.
you need to be doing what I am doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what I am doing is, by implication,
The right
better than what better than
yeah,
what you were.
exactly. I mean, I've heard some vegans take it even as far as like, yeah, yeah, like really crazy stuff, like
Well, there are
that
some really
almost
radical views.
eugenics level,
I
like,
mean, yeah,
like
yeah,
you need to try to, let's make sure we have children so that they're vegan. And do you know what I mean? And we need to, so that we
yeah.
outbreed meat eaters. And do you know what I mean? Like really crazy stuff. Like, it's just, the internet.
Uh, yeah,
What would
yeah.
we do
There's,
without it?
well, a thicket of views, the thicket
Thicket
of
of
views.
views, indeed, indeed. So anyway, let's come back to, so the second Monshu, is that what you said? He was that we were talking about? Ku-
Yeah,
Kukonyo
yeah.
Shonen? Um,
Hakunyō, yeah.
Kakunyo. So what does he say? Is there something what does he, or is
Yeah,
that too long a thing to look at?
it's a little lengthy, but it's not too long. We
Okay.
could certainly dig into it. Um, Basically, you do need to know a little bit about sort of, the Buddhist culture, I guess, at the time,
Hmm. Hmm.
of Shingon, which is, there were, of course, monks who were, for example, in Tendai, who were expected to be strictly vegetarian. They were expected to strictly uphold the Brahmacharya precepts.
Mm.
Um, but then there were also what were called lay monks, or lay ordained, called Nudo. And they were not necessarily expected to uphold um, all of the precepts that would have been expected for, a Tendai monk, for example, right? Being, lay,
Mm.
essentially sort of ordained lay persons. Um, so with that background, we could sort of look at this
I,
story about Shinron.
okay. I brought up. I found while we were talking, I found this on Richard Sinclair's website. His um that he still has up about for Jodo Shinshu,
Yeah.
which is
Uh-huh.
amazing, which is lovely. I hope, if you're listening or if you hear about this, Richard, we are so grateful that you have left all of that up and available to us all. Because there's a lot of really good things that he has put
Oh yeah,
together
for
on
sure.
there
Right.
over the years. So grateful for that. But anyway, I found the scrolls compiled by Cacunio.
Oh, okay. Could you
Is
share
it
the
within
screen?
that? Yeah, is it within that? That we're
Well, it might I'm not sure which one you're
I'll
talking
share.
about.
I'll
So,
share. Yeah, bear with me a sec. Let me get here. There we go. And yeah, share screen. Yeah, go. Okay. So this is what I found.
oh yeah. Okay, okay. Yep.
So is it
Um,
within?
yeah, it's not I don't believe it's in the Godin show. This is the biography of
Right.
Shinron Shonen.
Okay. Okay. So
Um,
I found this just because of Coquino is probably
yeah.
why this search came up. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and this is one of um the major works of
Mm,
his. And but the particular um story that I am referring to is actually in what is it in? Hold on.
okay. Let's see if I can
It's called the Kudin Show.
the credential.
In the Kudin Show is the sort of the oral history of Shinron that was given to Kakunyo by his father, who was uh,
It,
let me see if I can
it
find.
isn't that's
Uh,
not part of these. One sec. Let me what that. So that's not part of these scrolls then. Are you there?
no, it's a separate text
Okay.
from the Kudin Show, but
Okay.
it's basically the stories that Shinron Shonin told to Nyoshin, who was Kakunyo's father.
Okay. Gotcha.
Um, and that is what is
Okay.
contained.
Well, if you could, don't worry about finding it. So if you could just talk about that, then what did Cuneo Shunyan say about all this, or
Right.
in the
So
end, yeah,
maybe I should just read the story and
yeah,
then
yeah,
um,
definitely, yeah, that's
sort
good.
of
Can
talk about it.
if you have it now, yeah, share it definitely, and if you have that, is it something you can share or no on the
Well,
on screen?
unfortunately, I don't think I have Kindle installed on my
Oh, don't
computer.
worry
Let me
then. Yeah, you
really
just read
quick.
it. Yeah, just read it then. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, good.
Okay, we'll have to just read
Yeah,
it aloud.
yeah, just read it aloud. Yeah,
Um,
please do. Yeah.
okay, so chapter 8 of the Kudensho.
Yeah.
When Shurinosuke Tokiyuji, the father of Zenmon of Saimyoji, Hojo Tokiyori, who lived from 1227 to 1263, held political power, he initiated a project transcribing the entire Buddhist sutra collection. In seeking wise and learned monks to proofread this edition, Nudo, or lay monk, Muto Saimon, and Yadoya, their real names are unknown, by chance called upon Shinron Shonin, urging him to participate. And presumably this was around the time when Shinron was residing in Inada in Hitachi province, which is present-day Ibaraki prefecture. The shonin, Shinron, agreed to help. During the project, the vice shogun befriended the shonin, Shinron. Once he held a banquet attended by several warlords who feasted on various delicacies. Unlike traditional priests who adhered to strict vegetarianism, Shinran Shonin simply took his place among ordinary Mudo, or lay monks, and commoners not hesitating to eat fish and poultry. Pickled fish was served, and he partook as usual. During this time, he wore a Buddhist kesa, or a kashaya. Do I need to explain what the kesa is?
No. It's fine. Yeah, well,
It's
I don't,
essentially
but unless you want to, yeah, in
Buddhist
case people listening
robe, right?
don't,
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah, in case people
Well,
listening don't, go ahead and
it's
describe.
just a monk's robe.
Yeah,
So a monk's
yeah, exactly.
Buddhist robe.
Mhm.
Okay, so there he is. He's seated with the Nudo and the commoners, not with the fully monks, and not hesitating to eat fish. And he's wearing his kesa. 9-year-old, this is kind of a funny story, by the way. 9-year-old Kaiju, the Zenmon of Saimyoji, pointed and quietly whispered to the Shonin Shinran, "See those Nudo? Whenever they eat fish, they remove their kesa. Zinshi," that's Shinran's name, "why do you wear your kesa when eating? How strange." So this little boy is like, kind of, sort
I,
of asking Shinran,
being,
why do you not remove your kesa like the Nudo, the other lay monks do?
I love that his name is Kaiju. It's like
Kaiju.
a little
Yeah, not
monster.
yeah, not a kaiju.
I'm just kidding. Sorry, just kidding. Sorry.
Well, I thought the
Anyway,
same thing. Okay. The Shonin Shinran said, "Those Nudo are used to grand feasts and conscientious about removing their queso when eating. I rarely have a chance to enjoy such a feast, so I forgot." This is so funny. Kaiju said, "What you say doesn't sound right. There must be another reason. Or do you joke because you think I am still a child?" And then Kaiju withdrew. So Kaiju, the little boy thought, he was being made fun of, basically,
yeah,
by
yeah.
Shinran, because right. Another time, so the story continues. Another time, Shonin again served himself fish while wearing a kesa. Again, Kaiju, the same little boy, approached the Shonin and asked the same question. Again, the Shonin answered he simply forgot. This time, Kaiju said, "I don't think you forgot. You may feel a child's mind can't understand anything deep and think it pointless to explain, but tell me the truth," he insisted. Imagine this scene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at that point, the Shonin felt he could not slip away. There's no escaping this. Facing the child, he answered, "Rare is it to be born as humans, yet we sacrifice other living things to satisfy our craving for the taste of flesh. This is something we should never do, and even the Nirai Tathagata sets forth strict precepts against it. However, living beings of the present age, dwelling in the defiled world of the latter Dharma, live in a preceptless time. There are neither those who uphold precepts nor those who violate them. As a result, although I shave my head and wear the robes of a priest, my heart is identical to the ordinary worldly masses, and I eat these things. Oh, if only this strong urge to eat were instead transformed into liberation of these tasty living things. My title, Shakushi, which is an ordained disciple of Shakyamuni, is of little consequence. With a heart steeped in worldly life dust, that's an odd translation, but the dust of worldly life,
Mm-hmm.
my wisdom is naught and my merits none. What can I possibly do to save these living beings? In this regard, there is my kesa, a holy vestment symbolic of all Buddhas, liberated in the past, present, and future. While wearing this vestment, its merits exert the vow's wish to save all living beings while eating. When you believe invisible forces watch over us, there's no need to be concerned over how we appear in the eyes of others, however utterly shameless and unconscionable. This is the reason. This explanation moved and pleased young Kaiju. And the Shenron later stated, the person born to lead a nation demonstrates ability even from youth to bring forces of beings together under a single universal order, blah, blah, blah. That's the end of that chapter from the Kudin show. So that is one of the rare instances where sort of, I guess you could say, meat eating or vegetarianism is sort of directly addressed in Shin Buddhist literature. Other than that,
does cover a lot. We should definitely, when we have a time, I think we should go over this again and unpack this whole thing, because there's so much in that, I think.
There's a lot. There is a lot.
Starting with the, well, first of all, I like the 3 questions, I forgot. And then, he answers kind of, he's being very kind of like the pattern of the Buddha sometimes when he would give sutras is, like, was it in the Lotus Sutra? They had to ask like 3 times before he relented and said, okay, I'll tell you.
Right.
It's, what I mean? It's sort of that thing. And then that he said, I forgot, it's kind of like, that's kind of highlighting our bamboo state, in Mappo a bit, that in and of itself. But yeah, there's a lot in there that I think definitely we should. I mean, I knew that this would be a long topic, but
there is certainly
could be a long topic, I should say, but
within that little text.
Yeah, because it's something I just have a really difficult, I just, one part of me thinks, okay, I should be completely vegetarian, especially when I'm sitting there, when I'm stripping a carcass, do you know what I mean? After like a chicken carcass,
carving the roast beast.
Yeah, it's just like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And yeah, so so there's part of me that, like, I've been a vegetarian before when I was on my own, but it's hard when you're, my wife is not vegetarian and she cooks for both of us, and do you know what I mean? And she literally can't do the vegetarian diet herself. Her body just can't handle all the legume, the legumes and everything, what do you call it? You know what I mean? The protein, the types of protein, the plant-based protein. It's just, he can't. And then there's, health issues, like around a vegetarian diet, that,
it's funny.
It's, like with me, I wonder, anyway, there's just so many things about this that
don't hold back. I mean, I would say what you were gonna say.
There's it's there's aspects of the human existence in samsara, right? Particularly those of us, humans that were born or evolved or however it all worked in the kind of five turbidities kalpas, um, we, you know, we're not, I don't think we're built to eat as much meat as we do culturally speaking for just about any culture. Um, but we're still built to eat meat. Do you know what I mean? And if we don't,
Right. Right. Yeah.
a certain amount of meat, uh, there's issue. There can be physical issues for some people, quite serious ones. And
Yeah.
also there's issues around, like, say, someone who's diabetic and being
Mm,
vegetarian. That all those carbohydrates, and do you know what I mean? Um,
right.
and getting that balance. So there's not so it's like that. It's that typical samsaric mappo rock in a hard place of of samsaric existence. Is
Yeah.
yeah, we part of the thing is we're meant to not bring harm to others, but or to our try to minimize harm to others and to ourselves. And it's like, well, you know if some people are vegetarian, they might harm themselves by doing so. Um, while not harming, while reducing harm to others. Do you see what I mean? Um, but then there's the whole, um, you know, even a plant-based diet, all that goes into that, the growing and cultivating of vegetables and things, there's all kinds of organisms
Exactly.
yeah, there's all kinds of organisms and insects and the earth itself
Yeah.
that still, because of the way our agriculture is, we're harming the earth itself. Do you know what I mean? Even with just a plant-based diet. So it's just like, you can't do you see what I mean? To feed this many of us, and so
Well, that's why
it's
it's
kind of,
called, you know, samsara, right?
yeah,
And you can't
exactly.
escape from
Exactly.
the interconnectedness of all things. All things exist. We exist, so to speak, at the I don't want to say at the expense, that sounds sort of economical and
Yeah,
cold, but like Reverend Ray pointed out, there's no life without the taking of life
yeah,
in
or
this.
cost to others. There's always a
There's always
cost
there's a cost, yeah.
for
Yeah.
our very existence. Yeah, there's always harm and cost just by us existing in samsaric existence. Something else suffers
And
because we
so, and so the way that is addressed in the Shin Buddhist tradition, in Japan especially, is with the words that we say before the meal that we receive.
mm,
Um, and that is, um, I, I'm just loosely translating, but something to the effect of, I, with gratitude to all of life that that I am hereby received, you know,
mm, mm,
in this meal,
mm-hmm,
that is sustaining me.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I give thanks to and for that precious life.
mm,
And that's what the meaning of itadakimasu.
yeah,
I gratefully receive
yeah,
in Japanese is. And that's an acknowledgement that, sorry, I'm actually getting a little emotional. This is
mm-hmm.
quite rare.
No, no, I
um,
understand. Yeah.
it's an acknowledgement that I, I'm not living alone in
Mm-hmm,
this world,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I am being, my life is being given to me
Mm,
as a gift in so many ways, and especially in the food that we
mm,
consume.
yeah.
So anyway, man, I
Yeah,
very
no,
rarely
no, that's
get that emotional about things, but for some reason that really hit me just there.
it struck
A
you.
a
No,
little
I think it's good.
Dharma
No, it's good. Yeah. Yes, a Dharma moment there.
Dharma moment.
I understand. Believe me, I probably have them. I think I tend to have the more those kind of getting choked up moments quite a bit. So I yeah, I completely under. Are you still? Can you
Yeah,
hear me? I just had a
I
funny.
can. Yeah. Yep.
My volume is being turned down. What? What? Something is something is actually turning down my volume right now.
Oh, really? Can you hear me still?
I have to keep turning up my volume. It's being turned down for some reason automatically. I think I've got some kind of. There, it stopped now. That was very weird. Can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, that was very weird. I have no idea what was going on there. It's happening again.
Is it a wireless headset?
No, it's not. I think I must there must be either something viral going on or it's been hacked or something. That was very weird. Very weird. Anyways,
Oh
um,
dear. Could be the something from outer space.
wow, that was so weird. That was very weird. And it's happening again. Anyway, it's just the wow.
Is there some sort of touch
Oh,
control
I
for
know what it was. I figured it out. Yeah, on my I was leaning on the yeah, there's a on the headset itself.
yeah.
There's a there's a thing on there. And
Problem
that's I was
solved.
leaning on it. It was on my it was on my leg and I was sort of leaning on, do you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
I'm not
Oh,
always Sherlock Holmes, but
wow.
sometimes.
I was looking around too. I was like, am I leaning? Am I leaning? And I just didn't even see it. I didn't even think about that thing
Yeah.
on the wire. Do you know what I mean? On the lead. There's a little thing. Anyway, oh dear. Anyways, but
So
yeah,
I have about what
what
I
that prayer, that not prayer, but that 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 expression of gratitude
Mhm.
before a meal reply, I would say applies to everything that you're eating, whether it's vegetarian or not. Um,
Yes, yes, of course. Yeah. It applies to everything and
so
it's yeah.
it's one of those things. It's like maybe it's one of those things that I think has to happen. Something has to occur in the natural course of you know the working,
Mhm.
um, like it has with other things in my life, for me to be able to make a decision about it or view it. But I just wanted to understand what the Jodo Shinshu, teaching is about it, and just as much of that as I can read and discuss that, so that hopefully, eventually
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that process I'll come, because there's part of me is like, oh, I just wish, I'd rather just be okay, I'm just vegetarian. I'm Buddhist, I'm vegetarian. That's it. Don't think about it anymore. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of, then I don't have to think about it. Even though I can at least say, and that way I can say, well, okay, I'm reducing harm as much as I can, even though it's still harmful for me to exist.
Mhm.
Do you see what I mean? At least I'm doing everything I could possibly do in that regard. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, well,
Um,
I don't, I wouldn't view, I wouldn't say it's harmful for you to exist. I would more say
yeah,
recognize, recognize that your existence is, you know, interdependent on
yeah, all
all things,
things. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
Recognize that that would be probably how
yeah.
I would phrase it.
More
I think
positive way to put it than basically
maybe a little
everything,
bit more,
and everything else is as harmful as I am.
yeah.
um,
But and then, I do have to relate a funny story. The Dalai Lama, the 14th Dalai Lama, as probably a lot of people know, he is not vegetarian, and part of it is at the advice of his doctors for reasons you mentioned earlier, health and so on. And But there was this funny incident where Paul McCartney, um, who I guess is a very committed vegetarian. I
Mm.
didn't know that. I suppose he is. He sort of like took the Dalai Lama to task and said, well, actually, you can totally abstain from meat and you'll be perfectly fine. And I thought, you know, a former pop star lecturing an enlightened master
Exactly.
on um, his diet is just too so very the time in which we live, you
Exactly, exactly.
know?
Well, it's like the ones that want to go on about the, the preach about the environment, but yet they're flying around in their jets all the time, their personal,
Yeah,
jets and things,
yeah, yeah,
who want to
exactly.
preach to us about, their,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? This is classic hypocrisy, but anyway, or just classic arrogance, I should say. Arrogance, it's that
yeah,
arrogance of the pop star or the celebrity, you know.
yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, it's
But I don't think there's any easy answer. And like you said, I
no,
think there are things you have to um decide and come to terms and for yourself. A lot of
yeah,
times there aren't, especially in Buddhism, there aren't these like pre-packaged easy answers.
no, no,
The dynamic working and nature of the Dharma means that we actually have to engage with it and then find the answer.
mm, mm,
Um, but again, that is a personal thing. We don't in Jodo Shinshu, we certainly don't make any statement or
yeah,
rule that you have to um, do one or the other. But there's a lot more factors to consider than just simply, am I eating meat or not? Like if your wife is making you a dish with love and good intentions,
hmm,
and that dish includes meat,
hmm,
then it's actually it would be quite un-Buddhist to refuse
yeah,
that dish.
yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly,
Then you're actually harming someone in another way.
yeah,
It's and
exactly,
like you said, it's interesting. Um, Once we're made aware through the shining of the light of Amita's wisdom, of our own ego, and just how far the rabbit hole goes, so to
hmm,
speak,
hmm, yeah,
that our ego
yeah,
tumbles down. We become more awakened to these sorts of things that
yeah,
otherwise we might
yeah,
not become aware of, right?
yeah, yeah, true.
Um, and that's not to make any kind of recommendation, but
No,
it's just
no,
something
yeah,
to keep in mind or
yeah,
to consider, I guess.
exactly,
Um, but yeah, it is a big question. I said we could
yeah,
probably answer in 30 seconds, but what I meant was the answer is not that long, but
mm,
the deeper, implications and so on, of
hmm,
course, much more
yeah,
ongoing, you could say.
exactly, exactly. It's just something yeah, it wasn't going to be I didn't think there'd be an easy, quick answer to this one, even though I wish there would be. Um,
Yes, well, you know the drill by now.
exactly,
Nobody, there's no infallible person who has all the answers, at least not
exactly.
in this.
Yeah, and it might, it might be just, this question keeps going, for a while, or it could be like my question about the whole, when I finally asked the question about addiction, the addiction stuff and talked about that, and then
Mm,
like 2 weeks later, had
it
it
resolved.
it was kind of cleared that
Yeah,
question and that doubt or that calculation or whatever it was cleared.
yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
And maybe you
But I
will you
think
will
it's a
decide
similar
to.
thing with this. I think when we turn, what we brought up in that actual discussion, those discussions
Mm.
about from that section 20 of Lamp for the Latter Ages, or the letter 20 or whatever it is, where it talks about, how when you begin to see the light, you begin to encounter or meet as light, you
Hmm.
naturally, eventually start to naturally turn away from evil, naturally not want to take the poison, naturally. Do you see what I mean? And so I
Right.
think there'll be some way that in that flow of things that this will be resolved, if you see what I mean, um,
Yeah.
for me.
I would, one recommendation I think I can make, because
Yeah,
it's neutral in regard to um what your whatever your personal choice ends up
yeah,
being, but
yeah,
it's also kind of imperative within our tradition, is the practice of gratitude.
yes.
We no matter what you are receiving as your food,
Mm,
whether it's meat, whether it's
gratitude
vegetable,
for it.
whatever it is, practice, maybe begin a practice of gratitude for
Hmm.
that which you are receiving.
Definitely.
And this extends, this in Buddhism, this goes a little bit beyond just, you know, uh, saying grace.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
It's an
yeah.
actual, it's not just gratitude for the meal, it's actually gratitude to the meal,
Hmm.
in addition to, of course, the people who have made it, the
Hmm.
people who have all of the causes and conditions that that go into that meal,
Mm-hmm.
which you are then receiving.
Mm. And
And
then,
I think it's
yeah,
important to reflect on that, and then receive it with humility and gratitude for um
mm-hmm.
that meal. That's kind of
Nourishment.
the
Yeah.
real spirit behind, I
Yeah, if
think,
you can send me the Jodo Shinshu, if if there's somewhere where I can, where that's actually, the Jodo Shinshu,
yeah.
framing of it that's written down somewhere, if you can send that to me. I like that it's also, the Buddhist way of expressing that gratitude. It's an acknowledgement of our state as, in samsara.
Right.
Do you see what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yep.
It's acknowledgement of our bono, of our ignorance, of our, and at the same, it makes us even more grateful that, do you see what I mean?
Yep.
That this is actually, you know, been
Right.
provided.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
and so, I can understand, your emotional reaction to that from that.
Yeah, that was unexpected, but
That's kind of how it strikes me as,
sometimes sometimes something will just hit you,
yeah,
and
I
sometimes you
understand.
don't know when or
Yeah,
when or
yeah,
how it will.
exactly, exactly. But it is that, that's what I like about Buddhism. It's it's like, it's that, it's the
It
expression
knocks
of
your
gratitude,
thoughts
but
off.
it's the humility as well, of looking at,
Yeah.
it's a reflection on our state of affairs, like that we're even in samsara, and uh, that we have to, do you know what I mean? Um,
Yep. Yep.
and all the implications of that. Um, so yeah. But yeah, so okay, yeah, so that's, yeah, I'll do that as well. I'll start to incorporate that, because I don't really do that. I do it every once in a while, but I don't really at mealtime. I don't. That's never been a regular habit of mine to have that
Yeah.
sort of gratitude, acknowledgement, if
Well,
you like, or a
I don't
gratitude reflection at
either all the time.
meal times. But yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. I think, along these
Yeah, it is
lines.
it's a simple, just a simple habit, a practice of gratitude that also, brings us to a deep